Good. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, welcome all the government students. Make sure you get someone to sign. You have papers that need to be signed by a board member. Just after the meeting, you can bring them right to any of us. We'll sign them for you. Okay, at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to recess the regular meeting until the conclusion of the budget hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Welcome to the budget hearing. Fine, sir.
We'll turn it over to Mrs. Hungerford.
Okay, this is the public hearing on next year's budget for the school district, for the 24-25 school district, for the upcoming vote on the budget that will take place on May 21st. This information is very similar to what we've been talking about and presenting over the last few months. We'll go over the highlights of the proposed budget for next year, as well as the budget and tax levy history for the district in recent years, the tax cap calculation and proposed tax levy rate for next year, as well as the enrollment trend for the district and a review of some recent staffing reductions that we've made. We'll look at what the changes have been in certain expenditure categories, and also take a quick look at our fund balance, and then talk about what's being voted out on the 21st. That's a lot, sounds like a lot, but we'll go through it pretty quickly. The proposed budget for next year is includes $23,571,895 in projected revenues, and expenditures are projected at $24,963,903. So as you can see, there's a gap there of about $1.4 million that we're using fund balance to address. This includes a 3.5% tax levy increase, which is about $253,000, and a 10% increase on our health insurance, as well as the proposed aid that we will get from New York State. This slide shows the last 4 years of adopted budgets as compared to the proposed budget for next year. It shows the percent that we've increased each year. So next year's budget is a 3.3% increase over this year, or about $800,000 increase over this year. And again, the tax levy increase is 3.5%, or about $250,000. The total tax levy is $7,483,050. This slide goes through the tax cap calculation and shows, starting with our levy from this year, which was $7,230,000, the various items that we add and subtract to calculate our levy for next year. So as this shows here, our limit for next year calculates at $7,393,000, but our proposed levy is $7,483,000, about $90,000 or 1.24% over the cap. This slide shows you what that increase in the tax levy equates to. So this slide is designed particularly for the town of Walton. That's where most of the properties in the school district are. So it shows you, based on your taxable assessed value for a property, what the change would be in your school tax bill between last year and next year, or this year and next year. It would vary slightly for other towns based on their equalization. This slide just compares our various categories of state aid that we get from New York State, this year's budget to what's included in the proposed budget for next year. As you can see, we're looking at about $500,000 increase in state aid. This is primarily an increase in foundation aid, building aid, and transportation aid. We are looking at some categories, particularly excess cost aid, that are decreasing. This slide just shows the last 13 years of enrollment trend for the district. You'll see that back in 2010, we had a little over 1,000, about 1,050 students in the district. And as of last year, we were down to 835. So you'll see that we've had a steady decline in the number of students enrolled in the district. And this is important because our number of students directly affects the amount of aid that we get. So as we see that decreasing, we see a reduction in some of our aid categories. I had mentioned that there's been some decreases in staffing as well. This slide shows a number of positions that have been eliminated over the last 4 years in the district. We've eliminated some teaching positions as well as a director of curriculum position. Custodial position has been reduced to part-time. All of these reductions were the result of a resignation or retirement, so no one was laid off in order to accomplish these. But we go through the process of every time we have a position vacated, reviewing it to make sure that whether or not it needs to be filled moving forward, or if it's a position that can be absorbed somewhere else. Each year when we file our financial information with New York State, they run it through a bunch of analytics to determine whether or not we have a fiscal strength score. They do this with all the municipalities in New York State. We have been very fortunate in that our score has been 0 in recent years, showing that our district has no fiscal stress. However, as we've seen our expenses continue to grow faster than our revenues, and we're starting to use some of that fund balance that we've built up in recent years, you'll see here that here's the summary of the 2 pages of calculations. We're looking at having our fiscal stress score going from 0 to 6.7 at the end of this year, and then projecting into the end of next year, going up to 25 based on, again, expenses that are growing faster than revenues. So that's something that we are aware of and we're continuing to look at and take into consideration as we make financial decisions moving forward. This slide shows the proposed budget for next year compared to this year's budget by category. So general support is things like the superintendent's office and the district clerk and the custodial staff, those things that just support the district and the building. That budget is staying fairly flat, actually decreasing about $14,000. Instruction includes everything from teachers to aides to textbooks to anything related to instruction. It also includes your athletics and your extracurriculars, your nurses, your guidance counselors, all of those things. So that category is increasing about 2.3% or $260,000. We then have people transportation, which is obviously our expenses related to our bus, and that's going up 22% or $288,000, primarily due to the expenses we're incurring for transporting students that are placed outside the district. Debt service is also increasing $230,000 or about 18%. That is due to increased debt costs related to the capital projects we've done in recent years. However, we're also seeing an increase in our building aid that helps to offset that. Employee benefits is increasing slightly, about $12,000, and interfund transfers is increasing $30,000 from $100,000 to $130,000. The $100,000 is the capital outlay projects that we've been doing in recent years and plan to continue next year. And the $30,000 is related to our expenses for students who have extended school year education. So there are some of our students who attend school programs during the summer. And it's some of that we receive aid for, but our share is increasing based on what those placements are. Fund balance projection. We ended last year with just over $2 million in unassigned fund balance. We are anticipating that we'll use about $500,000 of that to fund this year's budget, and projecting that we'll end this year with about $1.5 million in unassigned fund balance. So comparing that to our proposed budget next year, our unassigned fund balance would be at about 6.3% of the budget. As I mentioned before, the school budget vote is on May 21st, Tuesday, from 9 to noon at the bus garage. There are 3 items listed specifically on the budget for, actually are the seats separately, so maybe 5 altogether. It includes the district's budget for next year, the purchase of 3 new 65-passenger buses. The library tax levy is also placed on our ballot. It's not part of our budget, but it is voted on as part of our budget vote process. And then there are 2 seats for the Board of Education that will be voted on as well. This information and other information related to the budget is available on the district's website, or you can contact the district clerk. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Meg. Sorry if I missed it. Where does the health insurance fit into? What category does it fit into on that one slide? That, yeah.
It fits into employee benefits. So
Okay.
even though we've seen a 10% increase in our active employee insurance, we have more retirees that are on our Medicare supplement, and which is less expensive than Excel. So we've seen reductions in other areas that have offset that overall
Okay.
increase. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Okay, I would like to entertain a motion that we dispense with the reading of the annual meeting notice, and the notice will be available as an attachment on board docs, as well as our website budget page, and be obtained from the district clerk. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's dispensed. Okay, we have no public comment on the budget hearing. So I would entertain a motion to return to our regular meeting.
Make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And return to the regular meeting. First item under our general session is the approval of the minutes from the April 23rd regular meeting as presented. Any discussion on those?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next, we have approval of the CSE, CPSE recommendations.
Move it. Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Any public comment? Welcome again, our government students. We should be done really before 9 o'clock tonight, I'm sure of it. Okay, we're up to discussion items. So under discussion items, we have our curriculum committee met on April 25th. We'd like to report out on that.
I provided some notes, but I can also just highlight a few things, and then Kevin and Al can chime in along with the principals around here, so I'm sure they will help me if I miss anything. So, just to remind everybody, one of the things that we discussed during our spring meeting is the need for textbooks, and this year there were no new textbook selections presented for our approval at this meeting for the 24-25 school year. Then we talked about some of the high school and middle school electives. There more information on those are attached in board docs if anybody wants to review those in greater detail. It was nice that we also included some student suggested type of electives. So it's always nice when students have can give their feedback or input into what those type of things that they're interested in learning more about. We also discussed the potential of opportunities to work with neighboring school districts at the high school level with region scoring and CTE, which I think is also a nice opportunity if we can figure out a way to work together with some of the neighboring districts. Because I think it's good to just learn how to work together, and with the shrinking enrollment in all the areas, maybe we can just bring some of that to us, or they can come here and also learn with our students. Summer program. So all 3 schools will have a summer program again this year, which I think is really wonderful that we do offer this to our students, and so I hope that families take advantage of that. So the Townsend School has the reading program again, And due to construction over in the Townsend School, it was discussed whether we could potentially bus students from the Townsend School to the high school because everything will be happening over here at the high school. So if there is a need, we could potentially accommodate that. Middle school has their summer skills program again, where students work with a teacher mentor to develop goals. They meet 2 times a week during the summer. And selections are based on whether they are basically the students that are not passing 2 of their core classes. That's how they're selected for that program. High school is offering credit recovery again. Thank you to our WCS teachers who are stepping up to teach our students in the summertime. It's greatly appreciated. There were 2 positions that were left to be filled when we were at our meeting in just a couple of weeks ago. And also we could potentially allow students from neighboring schools to attend if we have open seats. Crush Connects is another great program that we have offered to our students for the last few years. It started during COVID. So it's for students that need just a little bit more support during the summer, and they have activities that they do, including field trips and therapeutic art. We did touch on the January 2024 geometry test scores. Mr. Loomis created a document comparing WCS to the region by question category, which is really interesting, so I hope everybody takes some time to review that. So ultimately, there were multiple factors that were driving our lower than expected scores. The math department did meet with BOCES to discuss the regents and potential issues, and further analysis of the curriculum is needed, and any gaps will be addressed during that time frame. We discussed semester scheduling. So there have been some concerns brought up with the way that we do semestering rather than
Quarter.
Quarters.
Traditional quarter schedule.
Going back to my days of being in school. So Dr. McDonald and Al discussed this. Dr. McDonald talked about some of the advantages and disadvantages that we've seen. Primarily, some of the advantages are from disciplinary aspects, and then Al discussed the benefits that he saw when he was a teacher here. Our high school course catalog, the counselors are currently working on that catalog, and the completion deadline is the end of the school year. We did discuss the mandate, the state mandate for the science of reading, which will be our pre-K through grade 3. And our current curriculum that we have at Townsend School addresses this mandate. We have 100% of our Townsend School teachers are trained in level 1, and we have approximately 5 that are remaining to be trained in level 2. And then just as an additional item from the community was the Sydney Federal Credit Union does offer a financial education program. I did email out the document to a few of you. So just the request was if we could investigate a way to incorporate that into all 3 of our schools, because it is from pre-K level all the way up through seniors. Does anybody have anything they would like to
That was a good
or
summary.
clarify?
Well, thank you for the write-up.
Took a lot less time than we.
I would just add, on the semester scheduling, that is a personal concern that I do have, having kids in the school. And Dr. McDonald did a good job of going back through the history. It's been going on since the late 90s, basically, that we've had the semester scheduling. Doing a little bit of follow-up research, there is literature out there that suggests that students who do semester scheduling in high school don't get as good of test scores and standardized testing as quarter scheduling. So it is something that continues to concern me. I just want to make sure that we're putting the best framework out for our students to achieve, as best as they can. So, Dr. McDonald did mention that the last time this came up, this was pretty contentious issue in the late 90s. It did come to a board vote. We did talk about that the school could do a study to look into this, the benefits, if the board thought it was worth it. So I'm just putting that out there. That is something we could continue to discuss if we think it's worth asking the administration to look into. What are the real benefits and disadvantages of this type of a system? That's all I have to add.
Any other discussion on curriculum committee? Again, thank you for that write-up, very
Yeah,
helpful.
thanks, Tammy.
Appreciate it. We have a reminder that we have our special meeting scheduled for Thursday, May 23rd. That will be at 4 o'clock to accept the results of the annual meeting, as well as adding the secret review resolutions relating to the 24-25 capital outlay project. So we'll definitely need a quorum there. We'll make sure that we have at least 4 of us there to accept those. And then again, if everyone could please let Corey know if you're going to be attending graduation on Saturday, June 29th. No, I'm definitely going to be there. Tammy, you
I
said
will
you're
be
going to be there. Al will not.
Not sure yet.
Okay. Well, just let Corey know what our plans are. I think there's usually flowers and stuff like that that have to be pinned to you, so they want accurate head count for us. So.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Okay, no other discussion items. Correspondence.
We do not have anything,
New agenda items.
no changes, no additions.
Okay. On to the consent agenda. We have for discussion 3 items under consent agenda: the establishment of a new scholarship, John S. Gruber's 75 Outstanding Character Award, personnel appointments, and personnel unpaid leave of absences. Any discussion on the individual consent agenda items? If not, need a motion?
Second.
Motion second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is carried. New business, accepting donations. So the Board of Education does hereby accept the following donations with sincere appreciation. $60 from Cammie Edwards towards the Walton FFA chapter, towards the purchase of new jackets. Contributions made towards the FFA chapter through the All-American Publishing, D&D of Walton, Community Bank, Houston and Benson, Samiro's Pizzeria, Daryl's Garage, Sagamore Pets and Supplies, Providence Brothers Excavating, UHS, DVH, Dutcher Construction, Gladstone Insurance, Walton Music House, TC Sports, Walton Grange, and Alice's Addict.
Is there a dollar figure like that anywhere?
No.
Or just a collective?
It's not, as I understand it, it's a donation, we got solicited, and the donations is in the form of t-shirts for advertising, 99 t-shirts or somewhere in that ballpark.
Right, 99 t-shirts to FFA. This is an outfit that goes out and solicits on behalf of the school. It is not something that we will be doing anymore. It's not something that necessarily is a good practice, because we don't know, as you can see, the monetary donations that the companies gave to the company that then resulted in the t-shirts, rather than a direct fundraising campaign. So we're making some internal adjustments, and we'll not be having anybody solicit on our behalf. If we have a fundraiser, the students and the adults from our district will be talking to our community and our business in the future. So we don't, it could be anywhere from a few hundred to $1,000 for a marketing. We don't know.
We happen to have one person on the board that was personally contacted, so I definitely support the students reaching out to all these businesses in the future. I just think it's a better bang for your buck if the students, came directly to these companies, instead of someone else doing it on their behalf. All the proceeds at that point, in my opinion, all the proceeds at that point would go back directly to the supporting the chapter. So I think it's a good practice. It also engages the students, and, you know, puts a name with a face and why. It gives the students a chance to learn a little bit too, instead of just a company soliciting on your behalf. So I think all the way around it.
Agree. All those things we did not have with this.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So I definitely support that change. We have a motion to accept those donations.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. And next new business is adoption of the revised 24-25 property tax report card. Any discussion on that? Make a motion to adopt that.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is adopted. Next, we have the adoption of the workplace violence program, Appendix 11, from the district-wide safety plan. Any discussion on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adopt it.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is adopted. And in record time, we are up to supervisor's remarks. Turn over to Dr. McDonald.
We have the supervisors tonight, so we have Mr. Robinson and we have Mr. Nolan. Mr. Wood was at a leadership conference last week, and his report didn't make it onto the agenda here.
It was added late.
It was added late. Okay. So if there's any questions about anything on here, Mr. Robinson, do you have anything you want to comment on your report since you're here this evening?
I do not.
Okay. And the only thing that will actually tie into my comments I was going to make, and this is part of Brett's report, Mr. Wood's report, we did have the transfer switch. If you recall, we had that issue with the generator when we had the power outage. It was under warranty. They did do the work on Friday. Power was off in the building for, I think, until about 5:30. They ran tests, they walked the building, they checked everything after they tested. We did not have any surges of any kind, we did not have any lights blown out or anything in that nature, so it seems like that's resolved at this time, at this point in time. They are still going through an assessment of, which Bill Monahan is still working with IBI on this project to finalize it, which makes me very happy, as we know, he seems to be very knowledgeable in this area. But they're checking into the setup and the requirements to bring in the companies in. They're not resting on just the transfer switch. We know there was something wrong with it. We know they've identified that. That's being analyzed by the company. Hopefully we'll hear back if they find a defective part. But they want to make sure that all the settings and everything within the generator, with the power outage and everything going. So for instance, if it drops below a certain wattage coming from and the power doesn't go out, but drops a certain wattage, it can affect it differently than a power outage. There's a number of technical things that Bill wants checked to ensure that we're okay in the future from any damages before warranties run out. So that should be, from what they're saying, in claiming, we should be okay. And then the only other item that I wanted to comment on this evening was, we do have, just keep you in loop, we have an energy study, the NYSERDA energy study. We have a on-site kickoff meeting, virtual kickoff meeting on Thursday with our architects who are doing the work. So that study will be moving forward. And we'll keep you in the loop as that moves forward. And we still are waiting for the NYSEG report coming back on the bus electrification piece. And then we'll get that finalized. Okay? That's all I got.
Okay, we do have a need for an executive session tonight for the purpose of discussing contractual negotiations. I'd like to ask someone to make the motion to go into executive session.
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion seconded. We have any invitees on the list?
This is under.
Okay, with Meg?
Yep.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Is carried. And I'd also like to motion, we're not expected to take any action after the meeting, so I would like to ask in advance, we'll make the motion later to return to general session and adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.